in my vision to help me see through the blackness. These days getting worse, see nothing but whackness on this track list that this DJ gets playing. For fuck's sakes, man, what the hell are they saying? Ain't no telling, cause we all fun and felons that got bigger melons than what farmers market's selling. I'm held in this box, holes in these socks. I'm touching more souls like philosophy talks. What's the dark thought? After dark thought, great sun begins to rise up, a prize of that past try to leave behind. I'm leaving, not just for an evening, more like a weekend that turns into a season. Breathe in the fresh air and coat. Heed this, if we close our eyes, we can float in growth of the soul. It's a never-ending recipe, so check it because knowledge is the greatest form of weaponry. Rock on. Late bloomers. Rock on. Close retros. Rock on. Bonnie boy. Rock on. Soul hex. Rock on. Cola boy. Rock on. SarahTonein. Rock on. Christian Diego. Rock on. My eyes, they're my primary mode of comprehension. You're fenced in my death trap thanks to my henchmen. Now let me mention that this wasn't my intention. It was your friend's kid said you need an intervention. Sweet but keep us all and sweet peaches. And hope that your sweetches are able to reach the beaches. Life it teaches many things, so keep it vigilant. Don't act belligerent and shoot the
big ass, not small.
So don't start me. Enough of this malarkey. I'm trying to find parking. Largely an issue only to the common man. Sticks his feet inside the dirt, don't make it to the promised land. Contraband never found on my person. Mama beat my ass cause I never stop cursing. It's worse when the blows coming from the blind side. Don't be a wise guy when you wash up like a high tide. Rock on. Flying monkey. Rock on. Wolff is brown. Rock on. Mosmosis. Rock on. Android. Rock on. Ryan. Rock on. Mama Doom. Rock on. CDP. Rock on. Mad Liv. Rock on. Oh no. Rock on. Wild Child. Rock on. DJ Rose. Rock on. Metaphor. Rock on. Andy Black. Rock on. Lord Cross. Rock on. And the Loop Pack. Rock on. Rock on.
Big ass, not small.
Ayo, big ass, not small.
What's up?
Big ass.
Oh, it's Jose.
Jose.
Nice. Thank you for the resub.
We have a hype train? Oh no, we're almost at a hype train.
So we've been gone for a while. We took a hiatus. With school and midterms and work, and also spring break passing for the school boys. We decided to take a break and just kind of take a breather and catch up because it gets stressful. Especially
Michael's a practicing Muslim. Ramadan as well.
Ramadan, Eid Mubarak, Ramadan Mubarak, inshallah. Happy Ramadan to all of my Muslims.
Death to America.
Death to America. But yeah. There will possibly things are still in the works, but possibly a change in schedule depending on how the coming times go. But we're still gonna try to deliver quality fucking news coverage and political analysis. Big words.
Yeah, and I think, we took the hiatus, and like you're saying, we'll reassess, and I think with the show, as life works too, we'll ebb and flow. how we work with it and stuff too. So we have some stuff put together for you guys today. Don't be surprised if we're like a little rusty. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But we'll just try to get, like, I think one thing like I was kind of thinking about before we started the show is like, damn, there's so much things that have happened. It's like, how do we even
No, right? Yeah, like
choose what to talk about?
it's kind of unfortunate. Like pre us taking a break, like it's kind of slower news weeks. Not a lot was happening, and as soon as we kind of take a pause in the show, just so much fucking happens.
Yeah. And maybe that's, just from pausing, that's maybe the perception change that it feels like more is happening. But also,
Possibly.
there is a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. I've with us taking a break, I've kind of taken a step back and really tried to just breathe.
There's even a lot of shit that goes on that we don't even go over. We just kind of like hand pick some stuff and then throw it into this thing. But
yeah, and I think especially for like a lot of the big events going on right now, we can talk about them and kind of bring them back to, because I think a lot of the collection of some of the pieces we have today or tonight are maybe things that aren't being talked about as much or getting less limelight, and they tying those into the big issues that are happening right now as well. So I think we got to even spread, but just deal with us. We'll try to get through this and then get out of your hair and then do the next one.
Yeah. I reckon we get her started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So tied with the title of the show tonight, Gabagool and GabaGaetz. Creepy pedo Matt Gaetz, sex trafficker Matt Gaetz, private jet flying his underage girlfriend around the world. Gaetz has he's been exposed and most likely gonna get whacked. He knows too much. But for those who this happened a minute ago, so like a lot of people probably know about this, but basically, story broke. I believe it was New York Times who broke the original story that Matt Gaetz was involved in a sex trafficking scandal, and it was revealed to have like privately flown around an underage girl to various locations.
How long were they trying to keep that a secret? And how do you even keep something like that when you're like, like I don't
know. I don't sex traffic minors.
He didn't
like,
do very well because I'm pretty sure they literally caught him with like Cash App receipts of him like sending money to women or to a woman, and it was just straight up like
I just don't
emojis.
know how that can't go unnoticed. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then so he came out immediately after the story broke, the next news cycle, and it was like, my family's being extorted for money because we're so great. They want to, somebody in the ex-Trump administration, Department of Justice is trying to extort my family for millions of dollars. But like a funny point that I heard brought up, it's like, to be extorted in the first place, it has to have some weight to it. Like it has to be somewhat true for them to be extorting you. Because if it's bullshit, just be like, no, fuck you. I'm not gonna pay you any money. Go ahead and try to leak this. I'll refute it. But like for him to like, exactly. But for him to be like, that means that there's obviously like some merit to whatever's going on.
Why would you be scared if there's nothing there?
Precisely.
Nothing to hide.
Yeah, and so with that happening, like Jacan brought up, the Cash App receipts happened. We just more and more has come out about the story, and basically he's trying to he's trying to like cancel culture his way out of here. Like he's trying to basically say that it's all a setup, because he's trying to fight back against a Democrat agenda or whatever. Yeah, he's basically he's trying to meme his way out of this, but
oldest page in the book for the Republicans, I guess. Like, I mean, they do this move all the time now.
Yeah, but I feel like he's definitely memed too close to the sun. I feel like it's kind of over for him, and especially with him saying he won't be running for office again. He'll probably just take some comfy seat on a.
So he's just playing victim.
Essentially, he's just trying to, not talk about it, but talk about it. Like he's trying to basically absolve himself without like being like, oh well, But yeah, really weird and disgusting. And then the visceral reaction from Republicans when they talk about whatever the fuck they talk about, how like the left sexualizing kids or whatever the fuck, and then save the children, all that shit. And then as soon as something like this happens, there's absolute crickets. Like, you don't hear anybody talking about this on the right. And people on the right goes far as to fucking like defend this and defend him. It's a
It just shows how fucking bankrupt the, super uber conservative evangelical Republican Party is.
I mean, yeah, it's literally it's just all cultural war stuff now. It's literally just all cancel culture, this blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and they claim to be, trying to, and we've talked about this with some of the Chris Hedges pieces, like trying to, preserve the purity of the country and ward off evil. Meanwhile, they're literally like the party of pedophiles and creeps.
No, yeah, it's crazy.
Not that the Democratic Party is much better, and then when you get goons like Gaetz, when they get caught up like this, like you're saying, like now he might not even run for office. Like the rest of the party will just throw him under. Like they don't give a shit.
Yeah, and it's similar to what happened with Cuomo. Like,
Yeah,
they're all definitely involved in stuff like a lot of them are definitely involved in stuff like this. But as soon as one guy gets caught, everybody absolves himself of anything, jumps ship and leads him out to hang. And yeah, because they want to get this over with as soon as possible so they can go back to business as usual.
exactly. Yeah, they're all ghouls their relationships aren't built on like social solidarity. It's all about like fucking rank opportunism, right? Like I get mine, and then if I can fuck over somebody else, or like they do something and they're in the limelight, like, and it's good for me to turn them away right now, like then that's what we do.
Whatever it takes to climb the ladder.
Yeah, exactly. Chaos is a ladder.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much like an update on the Gaetz thing, as far as I know. Obviously, as this develops, Spoop Podcast will keep you updated. But on the subject of preying on children,
we're gonna talk about the Pope. No, I'm kidding.
We're gonna talk about a type of Pope, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was recently charged with, the sex trafficking of a 14-year-old girl. Pretty light charges in comparison to all the evidence we have stacked against not only her but Jeffrey Epstein as well, who was murdered by the Clinton machine, very obviously. Yeah, we finally have a charge that happened back like late March, early April, and it's gone completely silent obviously since this because she was just charged and locked away. But it's like the Gaetz thing. Like as far as this is gone, I don't see this. I don't see them lasting too long. Like they just know too much. You gotta knock them, or because like when like the whole Epstein thing originally happened, like Ghislaine just disappeared, and then we heard she got like COVID and in a holding cell and was like near death or something. And we thought it was it for her too, and yes,
yeah, multiple times. Like they're leaving her, like making her wake up every like hour or something and do a walk around and flashing lights in her eyes. And
yeah, like it's we don't know like really anything about the situation, what's going on, what's happening now, and to be honest, even if she's alive, like she could they could have totally just clapped her and just not talk about it.
Yeah.
And then months and months later, be like, oh yeah, well she killed herself.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how this saga like continues too, because like the Epstein thing for a lot of people that aren't political, I feel like aren't political. That was a real mask off moment for a lot of people.
That shit was nuts. Like
Everybody knew about that.
in broad daylight, Hillary Clinton fucking clapped
Put
Jeffrey
the gun in his
Epstein
mouth.
out.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
they just said he killed himself, and then the media ran with it. It's so like mask off. It's all connected. Like maximum security facility. The cameras just happen to cut off. The guards somehow don't know what's going on in the cell. There's no signs of strangulation on Jeffrey Epstein's body, but he hung himself with a sheet somehow. Like it's like it's so fucking obvious. They clapped him out.
yeah, I mean it's so ridiculous and like breaking that I think that shook it shook a lot of apolitical people to be like, hey, what the fuck like is going on? And I think that's honestly why we're still talking about it today. And like it was one of the first things we talked about when we started the show too. It was like
It was one of one of the memes that helped to start the show.
right.
Was Pizzagate.
Yeah, and I think it's all one of our favorite words, intertwined, right? And it's something that will a cultural touchstone that we'll keep coming back to.
But yeah, that's our child sex trafficking update of the week. We'll be sure to keep you updated. Next we have just moving on.
Instead of kids in cages instead of
instead of kids on an island, it's kids in cages. So this was I believe March 30th, and AOC went on her Instagram live, and as excited as we were when she first was running and whatnot, big letdown, and very ineffective, legislatively. Tries way too hard to play into the system, and now she's going on this weird kind of like Instagram media tour thing where she like word salads fucking rant like issues, and she had her big thing where she did the photo shoot at the border with the fucking where she was crying or whatever, and then we go ahead and we had this video here where she pretends to talk about the kids in cages situation, but very obviously dodges it, word salads it. Truly is a politician in this moment, and it's disgusting to see. And we have to, even though we did support her at one point, we have to be sure to, absolutely, hold her accountable. Words that have no meaning anymore. Words that have been completely devolved. But we have to hold her accountable because, what she's doing is fucking stupid. What she's doing is wrong, and it's not what we voted her into power for. So we can go to play the clip really quick.
Are you for real? So let's talk about this because so much of our national conversation, which is not a conversation, about immigration is driven by people who could not care less about immigrants. Often people want to say, why aren't you talking about the border crisis? Or why aren't you talking about it in this way? Well, we're talking about it. They just don't like how we're talking about it because it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. And also, it's a carceral crisis because, as I have already said, even during this term and this president, our immigration system is based and designed on our carceral system. Those are some of the problems. What about the solution? Well, number one, our solutions need to be rooted in foreign policy because our interventionist history in foreign policy and history over decades of destabilizing regions drive people in. But people don't want to have that conversation. Secondly, let's talk about the climate crisis because the U.S. has disproportionately contributed to the total amount of emissions that is causing a planetary climate crisis right now. But who is bearing the brunt of that? it's actually not us. We help create the problem, but disproportionately, it's the global south. It's South Asia, it's Latin America that are going to be experiencing the floods, wildfires, and droughts in a disproportionate way, which ding, ding, ding has already started a migration crisis.
So yeah, let's use a disproportionate 17 times in 1 minute. So yeah, like right there, like she literally just used like trendy lefty buzzwords like throughout the entire video to just avoid talking about how shitty our immigration system is, how Obama built the cages, how Bush started ICE, how Trump increased the immigrations under Obama, even though Obama was the deportation king, and how Biden has not let up on any of that at all, and is actually building more and more detention facilities. She refuses to do that because she's trying so hard to play into the system that very obviously hates her. And another story that recently broke was her trying to donate hundreds of thousands to establishment Democrat campaigns. Like I believe the number was like 120 something thousand. I believe she tried to
For
donate.
donors' money, right? Which is
Yeah,
like people that are
and
donating generally small dollar donations, and now
and
like
what's
they were
even more
trying to give it to her, who's not a corporate candidate, right? That's how she
hmm
labels herself.
and
Then
what's
she's
even
going to give it to a corporate establishment
yeah,
ties.
and then like what's even more hilarious is a bunch of people that she's donated to have rejected her donations and sent it back because nobody fucking likes AOC in the establishment, and to have a donation from her, all your opponent has to do is be like, communist, socialist, liberal, Marxist, Maoist, AOC donated $3,000 to so and so's campaign. Do you want the party of socialism to win? I'm combating socialism by bringing Christianity back to America. That's something else. Next show I think we're gonna have some campaign ads because there have been some fucking golden campaign ads lately.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to get some together for the show because those shits are fucking hilarious. But yeah, like it's this like that video was just super cringe. She's just trying to play off her whole I'm a lefty, boop boop boop. But in reality, she's slowly inching further and further into that, establishment mindset where she had to play into the system rather than try to destroy it. Especially since, we elected her to go in and break down this system, fight against this system, work, from outside, and pretty much since she's gotten in, she's done the complete opposite.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about like the buzzword portion and how she's like signaling to, you know, I'm I'm left, but you can see like if you pay, I mean obviously like the people on Twitter were like memeing on the format of the video, right? Like the zooming in, the
Yeah, the
yeah, the like
period, sis.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. But also like just in the language itself, like yeah, the good words, a lot of signifiers, and but not a lot of talking about what they're actually going to do. And of course, the main thing, they're coming at the end. You could even see the language of like saying we, the United States, is the worst global emitter, rather than 100 corporations are the worst global emitters. And, dividing it into it's our fault and it's the U.S. versus it's the everyday U.S. person's fault for why the climate crisis is a problem, which is
Absolutely.
like a total liberal conception of the climate crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Like she's using, how we talk about how things are intertwined in our politics. She's using that as a way to work around not talking about individual issues, even though it's very important to, understand that things are intertwined, yes, but to disregard them and, not talk about them individually is also wrong. And yeah, like kind of saying how like, yo, it's an imperialism problem. It's an environmental problem. The US so bad, ba, 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 ba. Even though
Yeah.
she represents the US machine, literally being an American politician.
and being complicit in all the things we were supposed to get her in to not do, right?
Absolutely.
I think we've, at least in this piece's conversation, like, we keep coming back to that, right? Like, she was elected to do this and she's not doing it, and why is that? It's because there is no labor power within the political system. It's completely feckless. Like, the way she got elected was through Justice Democrats, which the idea was normal people fund these, completely people-funded candidates, no corporate money, and they go after establishment Democrat corporate-funded seats, and they take them over. But what happened is Justice Democrats itself even caved into corporate power and corporate money, and because we don't have that base of actual labor power and social movement, like, it doesn't work. We can't hold them accountable.
And another thing, like, the Justice Dems we're running aren't necessarily like centered around their labor policy. They signed on to things like Medicare for all and whatnot because that it is a winning ticket and it's what we need, but nobody necessarily was really involved in like making a unified labor force and like bringing together like some form or another of like a class conscious working class, which is like another thing I think we
Yeah, because it's not built like that. It's built like how the parties are built, was the idea of Justice Democrats. And it's the same problem as the parties. The parties are bought by capital and they work for capital. And we don't have any basis to, do anything about that.
Yeah, if you're elected into if you're elected into the party into a party of capital, ultimately you're going to in one way or another represent it, or be so powerless to where you can't fight back. And Carlos always talks about third party legitimacy and breaking out of this two-party cycle. And then and especially like post Trump presidency and everything, it's definitely becoming more and more viable to move away from this.
Yeah, at least something, because we, historical factors obviously have dealt us a different hand than the rest of the world. Like, we never had a real established labor party.
Very true.
So, we got to build from here. What do you say? We move to the next thing?
Yeah, let's move.
So I'll just kind of briefly touch on this because we can use it to talk about some of the elections as well. This is from Reuters. It says Mexico eyes bigger role in a lithium industry, sees speculation in mining concessions. President Andres Manuel López Obrador said on Wednesday the Mexican state is considering taking a bigger role in lithium production. This was in late February, arguing companies were using mining concessions for speculation rather than mining the metal. Speaking at a news conference alongside the Bolivian counterpart Luis Arce, López Obrador was asked for his views about mining companies selling stakes in lithium projects in Mexico, even as his government put a stop to new concessions. And the kind of thing to note here, and it actually talks about it later in the article, and I'm sure other people are aware of this too, that you need lithium to make batteries in cars. And that's, been the main point of contention. And one of the reasons people think there was a coup in Bolivia, because the United States wanted, cheap lithium so that they could make electric cars. And, now we see Mexico moving into the lithium industry even more, which is scary because we've talked about Obrador's willingness to cooperate with the U.S. machine, honestly. And, now with Luis Arce and the, in Bolivia, we see their win, but, we could see contention there as they try to probably nationalize the lithium reserves. So we don't know what will happen there. And as of this week and the last week, there was a bunch of elections in South America Ecuador and Peru were the two major ones, I believe, and it was the runoffs, the second round for Ecuador, in which basically the leftist candidate lost, and neoliberalism will continue to dominate in that country, which, prior to our break, like we've been talking a lot about the wins that Latin America has been getting lately, and this is that's not one.
Yeah.
I saw in Peru though, and I only read like a brief summary on like kind of some of his positions. If you don't know like a whole lot of South American news, I don't know a bunch of outlets, but Kawachon News, KAWSACHUN News on Twitter, they do pretty good stuff from like a socialist lens. And in Peru, they wrote a little piece about Pedro Castillo, who's like some like rancho dude, some guy living, rural guy, and he ended up winning. He's the leftist candidate there. And so that will be interesting to see how that develops as well, because it definitely does not seem like he was supposed to be the, he was not the handpicked U.S. Person to go in at all. Because some of the issues he's for like giving land back to peasants from like these giant multinational farms and stuff.
Huh.
And yeah, like some nationalizing the industries. I think in that piece also talked like he was kind of socially conservative also though, which that sucks, but the important stuff is that he is against the US order, and that he's not going to just let the capitalists run roughshod over Peru, hopefully.
And and the first step to like not only like a more independent sovereign nation, but like a better one overall is taking that hand of the United States off of you. So even though he may be socially conservative, and we disagree with that obviously, but for him to be against the U.S. as a power and what in his hands in Peru, that is ultimately going to be better for the Peruvian people, and we can only hope that the person next in line after him is somebody who is more socially progressive.
And I think a lot of times, like, because we hear that all the time, like when the leftist candidates get elected in other countries, like, oh, like they're good on this, but they're bad on this, right? Like they're socially conservative, or like we've even talked before about like with Evo Morales or like some of those guys, for example, like yeah, like they want to nationalize all the industries, but they don't want to give up on fossil fuels, for example, right?
Yeah, and
But they, like you're saying, these things are all important in context, and the important thing is they're not bought by national money. Yeah, fucking capitalism, basically, right? They're going to actually somewhat represent the people, and I think if anything, the social
Big
conservatism
ass, not
could be
small.
melded, at least, right? Molded by the people.
yeah. Whoa, what Nicole, thank you for the subscription.
$500? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, Hector gifted a tier 1 subby. Hector,
Oh,
thank you
wow,
for the-
Hector.
Thank you for the sub. Nicole, you just got gifted a sub. Hog champ.
That's pretty sick.
Oh shit, I got sidetracked because that shit popped up on my screen. Thank you so much, Hector. We really appreciate that. Oh, okay. So yeah, what I was saying, we talked about this previously. Like, you have to have nuance in this situation. Yes, fossil fuels are bad. Yes, we should move away from fossil fuels. Yes, but as a developing nation, it's like Bolivia, becoming more and more free from the hands of the United States, blah blah blah. Them using their own fossil fuels to enrich their nation to eventually move off of fossil fuels is a net positive. Let them,
let them decide their destiny at the very least.
Exactly. Let them at least take back what's theirs. Why we were profiting off their oil. Let them profit off their oil, and then decide their own.
Yeah, then let them care about the environment.
But
perfectly said.
At a very base level, let them fucking make some money off their own land.
Right, which is the worst thing you could do in the eyes of whoever the dominating imperial power is, which is the U.S. right now. Like Iran, right? When they tried to there's countless examples, but Iran in the 50s, when they try to nationalize their oil, what do? We go assassinate their democratically elected president, put in our own puppet. And yeah, countless examples. Well said, though. Let them profit off their own, natural resources first before, yeah, like, how dare we try to, be hypocrites and try to say, they're not left enough or something.
Exactly. Don't do this fucking stupid I'm more left than you, holier than thou bullshit. Let's get real material change for the indigenous populations in these countries. And that's gonna come, as much as it sucks or whatever, it's gonna come from them getting, money from the oil in their country. And that's just, big facts.
Yeah. And before we move to kind of my last piece on Latin America, and then we'll move on to, some of the police brutality protests that have been rocking the country again, rightfully so, as well as in our own community. It was on, was it Tuesday? They went down to the plaza area, downtown area of Oxnard, and did a protest.
Yes, yeah.
But I know there's like that giant like peasantry camp in Brazil that's fighting against like the landlords there, and they're like trying to clear them out. I just wanted to note that story. Like maybe that's something we could do some research on and talk about.
Yeah, and when we had Colbo on the show,
yeah, that was something
that was something he brought up.
Yeah, and I think that's something worth looking into as well, talking about more. But to tie this into the police brutality protest and kind of what's happening here at home, but also in Mexico. It's from Al Jazeera. It says, Mexico investigating Salvadoran woman's death in police custody. A video showed Victoria Salazar, Arizona, pinned to the ground by police, reminiscent of the death of George Floyd. Mexican prosecutors have announced that they have opened a homicide investigation into the death of a Salvadoran woman who was shown on video being pinned to the ground by a female police officer, drawing similarities with the death of George Floyd last year. Victoria Salazar, Arizona, 36, died on Saturday in the Caribbean beach resort of Tulum. A video published by the news site Nota Caribe showed her writhing and crying out as she lay face down on a road with a policewoman kneeling on her back while male officers stood by. The video then cut to show Arizona's prone, handcuffed body lying on the road. Officers are later seen moving her limp, shoeless body into the back of a police truck. Local media reported that Reyes, who had been in Mexico for about 3 years on a humanitarian visa, and has 2 teenage daughters who live in Mexico with her. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, I mean, my girlfriend told me about this, and it's like, kind of rocking some of the major areas in Mexico. And there's protests going on in the UK as well against, we've talked about it briefly, the spy cop stuff, as well as, I don't remember her name, but there was a woman killed there as well by police officers. That's been like the rallying call for police brutality protests there. And then now, of course, we have the, in this story, it says how this was reminiscent of the George Floyd murder. And now we have is it Dante Wright?
Dante Wright was murdered in Minnesota.
Yeah, like what, like not even a mile, a couple blocks down from where Floyd was murdered.
Yeah, it's insanity, and it hasn't stopped. Just today, a 16-year-old young man was murdered in I believe I'll have the fuck. Let me look up the city really quick. But he was 16 years old. His name is Peyton Ham, and he was just murdered. Maryland. It was in Leonardstown, Maryland, and a state trooper took his life because he had a toy gun, and apparently he was standing in a ready to shoot stance or whatever, and so the officer took his life.
Been a lot of those incidences of just like kids with toy guns not knowing any better, and then just being shot.
Very
Tamir Rice, famously.
Yeah, Tamir
right?
Rice. Yeah, I was just about to bring that.
Well, in that one, remember we talked about it, where the phone call even came through,
And they
and
said
he knew that he had a toy gun.
Yeah, he's like, I'm like, he said the caller said he's almost positive it's a toy gun.
And
It's
that it was a
small,
kid.
It's a small child. And yeah, the officer pulled up and just jumped out of the car and immediately started shooting. Gave no warning at all, nothing. And I haven't been able to look into the details of this case. They haven't, the first story broke, I believe, like 7 hours ago. But yeah, I can imagine it's something similar. It's just 16 years old. You're a kid. You're some young kid with a toy gun, fucking around doing whatever, and then you just lose your life because police are so shitty in the United States. That yeah, just being outside at this point is just no, not even being outside. Just being alive at this point in the United States is a death sentence because Breonna Taylor was asleep in her apartment and was fucking murdered. No matter what, you know, until we change policing entirely in America, just being alive is you're at risk of being murdered by the police. Or, or assaulted by the police, as something we saw recently,
Right.
which
You
we'll get
saw
into a little bit later.
the Nazario video, right?
Yeah, second lieutenant in the army has his hands out of the window, pleading that he's very scared and he's very nervous, and he'd rather just them take him out of the vehicle. And you have main protagonist officer, which is the main body cam, basically just screaming at him, saying he should be scared, and eventually bear macing him while his hands are up out of the window, asking politely to be removed from the vehicle by the officers. And at one point, one of the officers try to remove him. Main officer stops the officer from removing him, pushes him out of the way, and continues to bear mace him while his hands are up, screaming commands at him, yelling at him to get out of the car, when he's, very obviously in a state of shock and panic because of everything going on. And yeah, like we're people running, the right's running out of excuses. It's just a couple bad cops. It's happening more and more, and with everything opening back up, not only are there more mass shootings, there's more instances of this where you're just more at risk of something terrible happening to you because we've yet to address any of the actual issues on why these things happen. We just kind of push them away, and we're able to hide them because of the pandemic and everything being closed down.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I mean that's got to be one of Biden's goals, right? Is to quell this kind of. I mean, obviously we've seen police brutality protests come up before. I mean, that was something that I'm sure radicalized us and a lot of other people our age was, the Michael Brown protests happening in Baltimore and stuff, Ferguson, and just the response from the Obama government at the time, just straight up cracking down on them, shooting protesters. Last spring/summer, we saw the Black Lives Matter protests come out in droves after what happened to George Floyd, and we saw the Trump administration do the same thing, right? They were shooting protesters, tear gassing them, driving cars into them, fucking everything. And you would think Biden's goal now would be to not be so
Militaristic.
Yeah, exactly. But I think at this point it's something that you can't control. The police force is a massive authoritarian force across this whole country that just cracks down on especially people of color.
Absolutely. That's why I'm rocking the Dorner hoodie today.
Hell yeah, put them down.
Respect troops, baby. Christopher Dorner. Shout out Grift Shop. If you want to get your own, griftshop.com. Not sponsored, but
Not fun. Could be.
Not, hit us up, baby. But yeah, they have heat. I think you can get a mask with this. You can get your ACAB mask.
Walk into a police department with that.
It's funny walking around the collection because they have a police building there, where they have a small station basically. Yeah, that's right next to the movie theater. Yeah, it's where they all have donut gay police sex. But yeah,
nothing wrong with
it's,
that.
it's always funny walking around the collection and just seeing mad cop cars and like just Christopher Jordan's face painted on my head.
To kind of close it up here though, like the reason I use that Mexico piece, and I mean it kind of just fit in now with all this happening, like example after example. I mean, we know this, we're fucking Americans, like daily this shit happens to people, right? Like we're desensitized to the endless videos of just people being brutalized by the police. But I wanted to use the something international to show that this is also international too, and it's happening everywhere because it's part of a systemic problem with the police and power and the influence of money. And yeah, it's around the world, and we stand with other people fighting this struggle as well. And that was one of the beautiful things with the protests in Oxnard here a couple days ago, is they did just that, and that was cool to see.
Yeah. But I think we shall go into our break for the show. We will be right back after this. We'll be right back after this song. With some more updates. We're gonna be talking about what we were kind of just previously talking about with police brutality, police violence, and then move into some like whistleblower stuff that Jacan has for us. But yeah, we'll be right back. If that's something you're interested in, stick around, and we'll be back. Right back.
Yeah.
Spoop. Ah,
Spoop.
yeah, Michael.
I really
like
fuck
you.
with serotonin. They make good
Yeah,
Are we
music.
gonna
no,
spoop it up tonight?
Serotonin's fucking pretty badass.
Yeah, I
Did
love
they play the other day? Didn't they have like a
Yeah, they had
somewhere
the
where
outdoor show.
Meganova?
Yeah, no, they had Nova, Serotonin. They had some hardcore bands
Fuck.
playing.
What
I
day
really,
was?
yeah,
When was that?
it was Tuesday, I believe, Monday. I worked, but I was fucking pissed.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
And they
I-
were
obviously-
all socially distanced too.
Well,
I'm kidding. I
yeah,
don't.
you know. Actually, tomorrow I think is it no? Yeah, it's tomorrow is the day that can anyone go in California and get a
Yeah, tomorrow is the day that you can set up any your appointment to vaccination.
right? Yeah, I didn't mean yeah. Not anyone could get one. Anyone could set up an
appointment.
appointment. You could set up a gamble on an appointment. They did improve the site now, like at least now when you get it, like it instantly gives you your second appointment and stuff.
Yeah,
Which
I-
side?
That's they call it My Turn or something now.
Is that what it is? Because I remember, I know you can like sign up for like anywhere. Like you can go to CVS. or
Yeah.
Walmart. even.
Walgreens.
My dad took my sister to Bakersfield because they were doing people under 18 at the college there.
Mm.
Interesting. And I saw Hassan tweet, so maybe I'm kind of ripping his flow. But like,
I thought you were gonna say something else.
what do you think I was gonna say?
I saw Hassan there. I was like,
Dude,
"What?"
imagine. No.
Kick his fucking ass.
He had a tweet about like him going to go get his vaccine. He's like, man, is this like what socialized medicine?
Oh
like?
yeah. I saw that too. Yeah, it's like he's like I have no insurance, but it's like they just took care of you.
You just show up, they do it, you sit down, it's like the most efficient thing you've ever done in your fucking life. And you know, but obviously we know the real reason they're doing that is they want to get the vaccine back in everyone so that they can get everyone back in the economy going so that they can just
Go
you
back
know,
to business as usual.
They're investing in
Business-
themselves.
business as
in a
usual,
way.
exactly. Well, they're doing it so that they don't have to give us any kind of concessions towards the things we want socially, and they can continue the order as it is. That's the only reason we're all getting a vaccine, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
Fuck if it even works, honestly. They don't give a shit.
they're talking about like yearly boosters and shit.
Yeah.
And they don't
Yeah,
even know they're not
yeah.
guaranteeing those are gonna be free.
I
Or
heard
that they're gonna
uh,
work against the variants that are spreading, right? Different variants
Yeah.
now.
You hear like China's vaccine like just didn't work at all, or something like that. I guess
Well,
like
I know
they,
they've handled it. I mean, they basically have no new cases compared to us.
I don't quote me on this, but I think they said something like, "Oh, we're gonna buy America's vaccine, like either like Pfizer or something. I think it was Pfizer, and then we're gonna mix it with our vaccine and then give it to our people." And I was like, "Nah, that doesn't sound like a good combination. I don't think you should do that."
Quote Michael on this. Jamie, can you pull that up?
No, don't do that.
I know
Hey,
sometime early.
I heard it from somebody, but I'm not gonna say who. But
sometime in May. I'm pretty
dad?
sure.
no,
I think in May. It's either May or maybe sometime this month. The Biden administration decides whether or not they're gonna patent the vaccine. And I think it's the Pfizer fucking.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, we talked
boy.
about before the AstraZeneca one that got patented, even though it was researched by fucking Oxford University, public university. And let's talk about the real effect of like a patent on a vaccine. Like that means they're killing potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people worldwide because they're not giving them cheap, affordable vaccines, or allowing them to create their own cheap, affordable vaccines.
let me see. I saw there was like these one guys that took the Moderna vaccine, and they like got the code, not like computer code, but like biological code from it, and then they determined what was actually inside of it, and then they released it on I want to say GitHub, so that because they believe that everybody should know what's in the vaccine without being like keeping it a secret.
Seems reasonable to me. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool, but I mean,
Well, and that's
Moderna
part of it.
didn't
Isn't
like
that the
say
whole
anything
thing with
about it.
patents too? Like, if everything's fucking patented, we got to be secretive to how we create these things, and there is no
Yeah.
open knowledge about what's actually in them. So yeah, I think some obviously it just comes back to that same problem, the profit motive. But
Yeah.
I saw the Johnson & Johnson one was getting recalled because it like caused a couple of blood clots in people or something.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just because it's like such a potent like strain of the vaccine. Like people it's just knocking people on their ass.
You just get one with that one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just get one strong ass dose, and
Trying to smoke that pack.
yeah, you're telling me percolator.
I already got my other one. I'll just get the Johnson & Johnson one too. Let's load up. We smoking.
Do you guys know where the blood clots? Blood clots.
Blood
Blood
clots.
The blood clots. Do you know where they were? Like, was it in where they got the shot?
I don't know,
like,
or
was it in
maybe
the brain,
elsewhere. I don't know. I just read that it was like 6 different people reported, or I don't know if they report, like 6 different people had blood clots because of it. Obviously, it was significant enough that they're recalling it and they're not giving people the shot. Even though a bunch of people have already gotten that shot.
Oh wait, they recalled it?
Yeah, they're recalling it.
Oh, I didn't know about that far.
Especially I think in New York, a shit ton of people were just
So
like
if
people I follow on Twitter were getting it in New York.
So if I asked for it, they're not gonna give it to me?
I mean, they might. I don't know, because there's the whole thing now with like how vaccines expire as well too.
Right.
Like, I think that's factored into it. Like when I went, this is kind of something my parents were telling me. Like, my mom went because she, works for a childcare system, and so she, was eligible for the early vaccination stuff since she works with kids. And then they were pretty strict. They wanted like a pay stub, and they were, a utility bill, and making sure, who her employer was and stuff. Mine, I literally just took in a fucking W-4 and they looked at it for like 1 second and then.
No, yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
W-4.
I was just saying, yeah, like I brought a paycheck and they're like, oh, that's you, and
yeah, and I think that's just because like maybe they have vaccines and like that's by the time I came, they're like, okay, these are gonna expire. Like we really don't give a shit. Like here you go. Especially since they're gonna roll out to everyone soon, too.
So looking it up, they're talking about 4 of the cases, and they are in the brain blood clots. One was one guy experienced cerebral hemorrhage, but this guy got a placebo.
Who was it? I think he got CIA. I heard hemorrhage, which doesn't sound good.
I heard hemorrhage, and then I heard cerebral something. I don't know.
Yeah, one of those is bleeding, and one of those is brain. So that does not sound good.
But it looks like they recovered.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, well,
Hey.
Oh, I hit it.
You cut out.
We heard hemorrhage and cerebral.
Yeah. Oh, he cut out again.
Oh. Man.
I think he's restarting his internet.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I started talking about COVID, and then factchecker.africa took me out.
Africa.
You're a fucking sheep, bro.
Fucking sheep will take off your mask.
Is your camera working?
Oh, it's not on. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, we got the hemorrhaging part.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to hear.
It's a super strong perk. The hemorrhage one was placebo. The hemorrhage one was a placebo during trials. The others were actual vaccines. One was called
he hemorrhaged from a placebo?
Yeah, I'm confused by that. What?
Yeah, that's what it said.
So they gave him some sugar water, and then he just fucking died.
No, no. He was in the hospital and he's recovering. But
Oh, okay.
Don't
but
placebos like haven't they been around for so long? Like they would know what would.
It's just
what did
sugar
they-
water.
What did they put in this one? Like.
but from the actual vaccines, one lady got cerebral thrombosis, which is just clotting of veins headed towards the brain, and
Oh,
she
just that.
recovered. She recovered, and then other people have just similar things of the veins headed towards the brain are clotting with blood, um, but uh, but they are recovering.
Oh,
But
I bet they just like passed out, basically.
one 45-year-old woman did die
Yikes.
who lived in Virginia.
No. No.
Jesus Christ.
No, that's. I mean, that's horrible, but
My dad got his vaccine, or at least the first one so far.
yeah, I
That's
still
good.
have to get my second one.
What did you get?
The Pfizer one. That was the only one they had available.
My dad got to choose. He was like, I want the Pfizer. And they're like, okay, come this way.
Sit down, sir. Sit down, sheeple.
All right, so should we restart the show and kind of get back into this police brutality, police force discussion?
Yeah. So something that was very interesting that was brought up to me that was posted, I believe, on the 2nd of April. And I just want to really quickly. Yeah. So basically this is like a numbers thing, and it's the flow of ex-military equipment into the hands of the police and the police departments. And if you scroll down to the first graph, Carlos, as you can see on your screen, huge spikes around 2013 and 2014, late Obama years, massive drops, 2016 to 2017, the beginning of the Trump presidency, you see spikes, then dropping back down late into his term, and then at the beginning of the Biden presidency, just huge spikes. And basically since about I believe it's quarter three of 2020, more than $10 million in ex-military equipment has been donated to the police forces. And if you scroll down to the next graph, you can see this is cumulative transfers, and the last one was program transfers by quarters. So this is just total everything. You can see just huge increase since 2013, and then built on top of what already happened under Trump, Joe Biden has just continued to increase, further militarizing our police force, which most definitely has and will lead to more situations like George Floyd, and will lead to more situations of protesters being, permanently, I guess,
Right, blinded
and like maimed. Is that a word? Like,
yeah. I mean, honestly, maimed, like all kinds of shit, violated,
arrested, fucking locked
scarred.
up. Yeah, exactly. And this will continue to happen, and only get worse as we continue to militarize our police force, and which is happening more and more under the Biden administration, on top of the increases under Trump. As is, with like, and we were talking about this earlier in the show, like, the police are becoming more of a military presence,
Yeah, this is how you end up with cops with tanks, right? Is fucking. I mean, it sounds far fetched at first and like, theoretical and drawn out that like the things we do overseas come back at home, and the easy thing to think of is like terrorism. Like we go do something overseas, people get pissed off, and they come and do something here. But one of the things we don't think about in this example is when we militarize overseas and we spend billions of dollars on weapons of mass destruction across the planet, eventually those things get old and they got to go somewhere. And a lot of the times they get sold to police officers, and they get used against us. And, they get used against other people as well, too. They get sold to other countries and their police forces. And it's an endless cycle of just further militarization and violence and the only way out of it is to cut the spending and the money.
massively cut the spending.
Yeah, massively, and completely tear down the police system. I was gonna say reform, but
there's no reforming a system like this,
yeah, reform in the grander sense, like you get rid of it and you build something new, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I thought this graph was like super interesting, and I guess on the subject of police, we talked about it earlier when you were talking about the protests happening in Mexico and whatnot. But since the George Floyd incident and the trial especially, we've had the Peyton Ham incident that happened today. We've had the Lieutenant Nazario case that happened a couple of days ago. We had the Dante Wright incident that happened a couple of days ago. And another thing that kind of got swept under the rug that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is the Kenosha killer, the Kenosha officer who killed I'm fucking spacing on his name right now.
Jacob Blake.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
The Kenosha officer who shot and killed Jacob Blake is returning to work and will be facing no charges for the murder of Jacob Blake. His name is Rustin Chesky.
When you put in the sheets, I even forgot about that until you just mentioned it now. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the Jacob Blake one.
Rusten Sheskey. Rustin Chesky is the name of the officer who shot and killed Jacob Blake and is going to be returning to work facing no charges. Give you that information. But yeah, it's absolutely disgusting, and not only is that a stain on how disgusting our policing system is, but our criminal justice system, and we're how long into the fucking George Floyd trial, and nothing's happened. We're in a fucking like state of recess or whatever. We've had shitty fucking witnesses.
Have you guys got to watch any of the trial?
I have not. I just like from what I see on Twitter and clips of this and that. It's honestly just a fucking soap opera.
Yeah, and it furthers my belief that just view that the justice system is completely hollowed out, man. Like watching the defendants for the police officer fucking press some of the witnesses and the questions they ask them, like it just sits immediately in your stomach. You're like, this isn't justice. Like, yeah, this is a drama, and it's like that's not a like. Once they had the doctor come in and they had this cardiologist come in, and he literally was like, yeah, he couldn't have died from a fentanyl overdose because it wasn't like this certain amount of carbon dioxide in his blood. It couldn't have been from a heart attack either. The only way he could have died would have been from asphyxiation, which then caused a heart attack, most likely an arrest.
Yeah,
like, all right, so that's it then. Like,
and you also have they came and questioned an ex-police chief and was like, why don't
God, yeah.
and like why don't you kneel on people's necks? And like, oh, because it's extreme. It's and when you do that in the position he's in with his hands behind his back, it's so restrictive of you breathing that it's just so uncalled for. They had people, they had experts on the stuff basically say, yeah, the exact position he was in, all the motions you can see in the video of him leaning on one side trying to get air into just one lung just to stay alive. Everything about it's just so blatantly obvious that he killed this man. No ifs, ands, or but about it. If Derek Chauvin didn't do the things that he did, George Floyd would be alive. And yeah, it's just so blatantly obvious, and for nothing to have happened, and just days and days of this, shitty fucking witnesses, Derek Chauvin's lawyers doing everything they can to just prolong this. It's disgusting, and yeah, it's literally a soap opera. Like there's no real anything happening here.
That's why everyday people hate this shit, because it's just deliberation over. We all know what we saw, and that's why that was a huge rallying cry around George Floyd's death, because
it's just
as
so
gruesome
blatant.
as the video was, yeah, it was so blatant, and that's why people are like, even people that you might consider in our lives conservative or usually defend the police, they even, at the very least with that one, made the concession to like, oh man, that was horrible. Like the video I saw, like it's undeniable. It's like, yeah, it is. Like it's there, right? Like
Yeah,
that's all you need.
Unless you literally, you know, are either paid or you just hate black people.
Yeah, you're
There's
blind.
No, like,
if you're blind, even you can hear it.
yeah, like you either hate black people or you're paid for your position when you say that any amount of what happened with George Floyd was any sort of justified. And there's no way around it. You can try to beat around the bush. That's it. You're racist or you're paid.
I'm racist and paid, so.
I'm simple. I'm Candace Owens. I'm a white guy.
yeah, I'm Candace Owens. All right, does anyone have... that's like the main thing on, I think, the American mind right now, but as the American mind goes, something else horrible will happen in a day or two, so we'll have to talk about that. But does anyone have like any final thoughts?
No, we should have.
So this one kind of, I saw, didn't really get a whole lot of coverage, so I wanted to cover it. And, usually this kind of stuff I enjoy covering anyway. Kevin Gostola is someone I follow, and he's done good work covering Assange. One of the few people that actually covers Assange and like actually covered his fucking trial and stuff. So that's huge. So recommend him. This is from his Substack at Dissenter. It says, drone whistleblower charged with violating Espionage Act pleads guilty. Daniel Hale, who revealed information on the targeted assassination program while President Barack Obama was in office, will be sentenced in July. Daniel Hale, who blew the whistle on the United States government's targeted assassination program that includes drones, pled guilty to transmitting and retaining national defense information, in violation of the Espionage Act. The guilty plea by Hale makes him the first whistleblower to be convicted under the Espionage Act during President Joe Biden's administration. A change of plea hearing was held on March 31st in the Eastern District of Virginia, around a week before Hale was scheduled to go to trial. Judge William O'Grady permitted Hale to remain under supervision by a probation officer until sentencing on July 13th. Though Hale pled guilty, prosecutors from the Justice Department opposed canceling the trial altogether and refused to dismiss the 4 remaining charges. Hale's attorney questioned why this would be allowed. O'Grady seemed to recognize the 4 remaining charges criminalized much of the conduct already covered in Hale's plea. Often this is referred to as charge stacking. Yet the judge permitted the government's extraordinary and unusual requests, leaving open the possibility of a trial if prosecutors are unhappy with sentencing. Under President Barack Obama, CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou was targeted in the Eastern District of Virginia with an Espionage Act prosecution. He wound up pleading guilty to violating the Intelligence Identities Protection Act in order to ensure he only went to prison for 30 months. Keep in mind, prison for 30 months for telling the truth, which is also what Daniel Hale is facing here. It says, quote, I'm disappointed that Daniel Hale's case was continued in the Biden Justice Department, unquote. Kiriakou shared after learning Hale changed his plea. I had hopes that Biden's Justice Department appointee would recognize the public service that Daniel Hale provided when he revealed illegality and abuse in the drone program. And I admire Kiriakou's optimism there, despite the fact that they literally persecuted him too. But the whole point of this is to show that just like, Joe Biden's main man, Barack, he's willing to go after people that tell the truth about the American war machine. In Daniel Hale's case, he talked about, revealed the assassination program they use with drones, which we talked about previously with Anwar al-Awlaki, as well as his, I think, like 16 or 18-year-old son and his 8 or 12-year-old daughter that were also assassinated by a drone during the presidency of Barack Obama. And that was significant because we covered that because they were murdered because they basically worked for the U.S. government and were complicit in both 9/11 and the creation of Al Qaeda. So, yeah. And if you talk about any of those truths insubstantially and reveal them, as Daniel Hale did, they're going to go after you. And yeah, I just felt this was important to talk about.
Absolutely, and it's it's commonplace really anywhere, and when talking about any part of the United States, when you expose truths like the Daniel Hale, or even people who represent the United States, the Chevron and Steven Donziger.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Which
that's
is
an ongoing one.
Yeah, it's insanity. Yeah, any amount of truth telling is just so just beaten down in the United States.
Chelsea Manning. I mean, let's not forget the
Yeah,
persecution they put on her.
of course, and the torture, literal torture.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kyriako. I think others have, at the beginning of Biden's presidency, had that open optimism as well. Not because I don't think they know the truth that Joe Biden actually will persecute whistleblowers, but I think just with the change in administration, everyone's open to what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
here it's clear that the establishment is just going to do the same thing, and it's going to go after things it perceives as threats to its rule. Honestly.
Yeah, you change the face, but the beast is still the same.
Yep, and very sad we stand with all whistleblowers. Leak us some shit. That'd be cool.
Very pog.
For real. Give us a Rubik's Cube flash drive. That should be. Come on, bro. All right, so I'll move. I have one more, and then we'll do a video to close out here. Thank you to everyone that's been here. We had a long hiatus, and this.
Yeah, we didn't even.
I already feel like we're kind of getting in a groove, though. It feels good.
Yeah, and for us to not even talk about us doing this show and 7 people's cool, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, seriously. I think that was kind of on purpose too. Like we have a soft comeback, right? And then when we're out, we have a nice, solid show for you guys. Like we'll hype it up and stuff.
It's soft starry, but after you stroke it, it gets hard. you know how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Not if it's too hot though.
But yeah, if it's too hot, if it's too hot, it's soft for a while.
Yeah.
Until we get that Blue Chew sponsor, BlueChew.com.
That'd be so cool. You just put in Spoop as a code.
And buy dick pills.
Yeah.
Fuck me. BlueChew.com.
Oh yeah. All right, so transition.
Transition.
Another, when Carlos was previewing the articles when he's setting up the show, he said like UN says, thing that's obvious, but US will ignore or something like that. And it's totally true. UN News says UN rights expert urges United States to remove sanctions hindering rebuilding in Syria. Just gonna read it a little bit, and I thought, yeah, it is obvious, honestly, but it's just important to point out too because some other news I saw in like mainstream CNN corporate media was, Joe Biden is withdrawing from Afghanistan. He's leaving Afghanistan, which not only is that claim dubious to the, if he's actually going to do that and like to what degree, like, okay, maybe he removes soldiers and leaves like some threshold amount of soldiers there, which is not leaving Afghanistan, or like they leave and meanwhile we full well know they have like covert operations there, Green Berets, CIA operations.
Not to cut you off from the article you're about to talk about. From what I've seen and read, which I haven't done a lot because it's still so early. He claims he's going to do it September 11th, which is pushed back from the day that Trump said, which was May 1st. But basically, from what I've read, he's going to do a full drawdown in Afghanistan. But they're going to have teams outside of Afghanistan's borders ready for strikes if necessary.
Where, in Iran? No.
that's from what I've read. Obviously, things are subject to change, and I'm not fucking not surprised if this never happens because back in 2014, Joe Biden was, Joe Biden was. I'm ripping this from Kyle a little bit. I watched his video on it. Back in 2014, Joe Biden said, by the end of the year, we're going to be out of Afghanistan, and that was, under Obama. That was, and yeah, and guess what didn't happen? Where here we are in
Right, Trump
2021
promised something
still.
similar too. He did the
Yeah,
same thing.
he said massive drawdowns, and he actually didn't. He pulled a couple thousand and moved them somewhere else in Europe. So yeah, we'll see what happens September 11th. Until then, don't get your hopes up. The U.S. imperialist machine is, constantly thinking.
Is that not a hilarious day to choose?
Yeah, right.
That is like insane to me. Like, obviously, if it was in real like solidarity and like legit, like, okay, maybe that would actually be significant. Like, we did it on 9/11 and we're like, hey, we're actually gonna, like, 9/11 being the day that the U.S. war machine officially decided to just wreak full havoc on the Middle East. Not that we hadn't been doing it before, but like that was the threshold, right?
It's also kind of a fucking spit in the face. Like, even though it's like
That's
significant
what it
because
is
it's
like
the
this,
same.
since they're not actually withdrawing from the Middle East. Like,
Yeah, and
it is a definite spit in the face.
it's also just like 21, fucking it's been 20 fucking
22, 23
yeah,
years in Afghanistan,
yeah, and
20
fucking
some years in Iraq, or
it's fucking like
17, 18.
and then, yeah, to do it on September 11th, just kind of like a reminder, like, hey, this, even though even though this bad thing happened, like it's
Yeah.
it's relatively insignificant compared to what we've done to them.
Right. 9/11. Yeah, dude. I mean,
On a scale of numbers, we've done multiple 9/11s
yeah,
since
all the time.
we've fucking invaded. Not only
Yeah.
that, how it's small, yeah, obviously it's bad, but how small those numbers is compared to how we basically fucked our own country with COVID. Over 500,000, half a million people, more than half a million people have died from COVID because of the mismanagement of the United States, and
It
it's
was like
it
2000 on 9/11.
yeah, and it's always brush off COVID, blah blah
3000.
blah, just like the flu, but it's never forget 9/11. It's like,
Brush off 9/11.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, people have been through worse, dude.
blah blah
It's not like it.
blah.
Why do they hate us, right? That's the the golden question to people that don't understand what's going on. Why do they despise us?
I wonder why.
Here, I'll give one reason why. Just to read a little here. It says Elena Duhan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, United Nations Special Rapporteur on the negative impacts of unilateral coercive measures on human rights. It's so sad that like the UN has like a perfect position and like nuanced position to assess this thing just for it to like go to no use. But
Mean nothing.
yeah. She voiced concerns that sanctions imposed under the Caesar Syria Civilian Protection Act, also known as the Caesar Act, risk exacerbating the already dire humanitarian situation in Syria, especially in the course of COVID-19 pandemic, and put Syrians at even greater risk of rights violations. Quote, when it announced the first sanctions under the Caesar Act in June 2020, the United States said it did not intend for them to harm the Syrian population, she stated, which is not genuine and a lie, yeah. Also, quote, she says, yet enforcement of the act may worsen the existing humanitarian crisis, depriving the Syrian people of the chance to rebuild their basic infrastructure. So, and I like brought up that Afghanistan thing, and thank you for like giving it more flesh there too, because like it just shows like that's also not genuine when they're doing shit like this. We've talked
Yeah,
about other sanctions, and
just
now
like
they're doing this here.
and just like with the whole like ending of federal like private prison contract, like it's
Right.
you put this big face on it to get all this puff piece media coverage into for people who are relatively apolitical who just like kind of like browse through headlines, they see that and be like, oh, that's not bad. Joe Biden's not that bad. When in reality, it's this very there's this like it's a big puff piece.
Yeah, and that's not to defend like the we need Trump, but like that's why some people liked Trump, because at least you know the enemy you're getting, right? It's the enemy you know. Even though he's like an unpredictable guy, at least
he said the
he's not
quiet part
sugarcoating
loud.
it. Yes, exactly.
Whereas Joe Biden will hide behind the media machine and feed you small bits of half truths.
Right.
While
And you've
covering
got to
up all the
dig,
disgusting. Exactly.
which is, I mean, more fun for us, honestly. Like we get to do more.
But you know.
It's more just, yeah, measly mouth, and honestly makes me more sick to my stomach.
Exactly.
In a way. Anyone have like any thoughts before we get to our final video?
No. Just no, but just can you look at staff really quick?
Yeah.
But you can go ahead and intro the video while you read.
We can play out the. Do you guys want to play out the video? We can just do that.
All right, actually,
Yeah, we
wait.
can do
It's a new Nova track. We have to play it.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Shout out to
It's
Omega
fine too,
Nova.
because we can play it and talk about it too, because I think this is something pretty important in the country. Just to give a preview, like there was the Bessemer vote in Alabama, where they were going to vote to unionize. There's other unionization votes going across the country right now, like the nurses union, I think in Maine or something was another big one. But this was a big one, obviously, because Amazon has done everything they can to prevent them from unionizing. And Amazon is the fucking most powerful corporation on the planet, probably. And they're fucking expanding these facilities everywhere in the country, including our own community. And these facilities have been known to have gross human rights violations. And
Peeing
they
in
underpay
bottles,
their
pooping in
workers.
bags.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have multiple videos where we go into detail about how disgusting Amazon is. Go to our YouTube channel, Spoop Podcast, and you can watch our videos where it's all time stamped up, and you can go and learn more about how disgusting Amazon is.
Yes, and like long story short, the vote failed, and
yeah, and the union who wanted to represent that facility is challenging it currently.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if I can't remember if he touches on that part in the video, because they're challenging it obviously because there was obvious violations against them, like Amazon put a fucking mailbox on the site, their own mailbox on the site, which is like blatant, vote rigging and shit, and like not to mention the disinformation campaign and all kinds of other stuff. But Richard Wolff here, who we touch on, someone we use all the time as a teacher. I think he talks more about like what this defeat kind of means spiritually almost, and like how to think of this in the larger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll play that. Well, we can full screen it too, so we really absorb his words.
This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to talk today about the defeat of the unionization drive at the Amazon warehouse and distribution center in Bessemer, Alabama. It's an important event, and the best way to handle it is to try to understand why it happened. And I'm not going to focus on the strategy and tactics of either side. I don't believe those were the key causes of the outcome. That is, I don't think Amazon was all that successful in what they did. I don't think the union was either. Both had their strengths and weaknesses, and the outcome was not determined by either of what they did in terms of strategy and tactics. I think the outcome was foreordained, that it was determined by larger cultural, historical understandings that the workers in that area brought to that vote and to that unionization drive. I think what has become the common sense of workers in general and workers in the South particularly were the deciding factor. and let me explain what I mean. Americans are born into a particular society which has general rules in how it teaches them, in their schools, in their homes, in their churches, and as they watch and engage with mass media. And that general set of ideas becomes what you might call common sense, the way people think the world works, and on the basis of which they make decisions like voting in a unionization election. Long ago, corporate America understood the importance of shaping common sense. They spend huge amounts of time and energy and personnel to shape what we hear and see in the mass media, what we hear in the church pulpit, what we get in our schools, and what our parents and friends talk to us about. Nothing comparable happens on the other side. There is no parallel flow of money, people, creativity, ingenuity into presenting the critique of corporate capitalism, the possibility of what society could do with unionization. In Europe, that exists. There is a long developed critique of capitalism enshrined in common sense because they have powerful socialist, communist, and anti-capitalist movements, political parties, who often are part of governments. Nothing like that exists in the United States. And that's why unions exist in Amazon facilities all over Europe, and always have, and have no threat coming down to get rid of them either. So we need to do what we haven't done. We need to intervene in public discourse, schools, media, churches, conversations, systematically, all the time, like the other side does, so that common sense is a much more balanced affair and can actually look at the arguments pro and con for a union with something like a balanced understanding of what's at stake. In Europe, the unions themselves do some of that, as indeed unions in the United States try with limited resources to do some. But in Europe, they have a partner. Yeah, those socialists, those communists, those anti-capitalists all over the place are the partners of the labor movement, doing the important work of shaping public common sense, shaping what happens on television, on the radio, in the church, at school, and so on. The United States labor movement has no such partner. It did once in the first half of the 20th century. But after World War II, with the Cold War, a split was engineered by the corporate sector and working with the government, a split of the political left from the labor movement. Very useful way of having a Cold War. And that split meant that the labor movement lost its natural partner, the people, the movements, the parties, the social activists who could have and would have and should have been the partner that could change the national discourse, give criticism of corporations equal opportunity to make their case, to give explanations of what unions can do, have done, and could do an equal place, which they have not had for the last 75 years. So here's my response. Learn from the Amazon mistake. Rebuild the alliance that corporate America smashed, an alliance between a labor movement that needs all the help it can get and an already rapidly growing progressive, leftist, sometimes socialist mass movement, political, ideological, social. Rebuilding that alliance is the best possible way to take something positive from the defeat of the Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama. This is Richard Wolff
pause it
for
there,
Democracy.
Carlos. And yeah, I mean, I think he lays it out. And obviously, there are even bigger historical factors at play to like why we don't have a socialist party here, movement. But I think the key he really gets at is, you know, kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning with AOC, is we don't have that coalition of a labor movement and like a mass movement of socialists and, you know, artists, etc., that can, through the power structures, hold, you know, politicians' feet to the fire and make them do what we want. And now with the defeat of the, I mean, it was always it was always naive to think that it would just pass easy, and it's good to see that they're gonna fight this unionization, and like fight as in continue to fight for it, because they were persecuted. But I think Richard Wolff, his statement is true. Like we have to broaden the conversation, right, and talk about these things more, and build the movement and build the ideology, and that's the only way to improve on these things. Honestly, change the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just slowly working towards that, you know, class conscious working class, where we understand how important we are as individuals.
Right. And just to like re-harp on it, like, and don't like divorce one from the other. Like, never talking about it will never be the end in itself. Like, there has to be, like he's saying, there needs to be ideology, mass movement, politic, but in the same hand, there needs to be an actual fucking like labor party and like labor movement of working people getting together to change the workplace and doing strikes and protest. And it's the combination of direct action and, you know, forming ideology and theory together. They have to come together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Praxis.
Praxis. Symbiosis. Synthesis. Fuck Hegel.
Hegelian Marxists.
The problem.
Where are the Marxists?
Anyone have like any thoughts on the Amazon unionization stuff?
No, and I guess no, because like I don't know, like we put a lot of work into covering it. Like we detailed it very
It's
well.
not over. It's like this
Yeah,
isn't. It's not a defeat in the
it's
sense of
never
like
over.
done. Yeah. It's much less a defeat. Like when Bernie dropped out, that was a defeat. Like the project that was channeling things was dead at that point, and it didn't channel anything after because of it. But this isn't dead. Like this, they're continuing to fight this, and hopefully this galvanizes people to actually like, do something, and like saying, have more conversations, build more movements.
Really talk about unionization in America.
Yeah, just as the, you know, as sad as it is, the George Floyd murders and the other ones, like that they build mass movement and organization too towards those ends to ending police brutality. And yeah, they're taking their L's right now too, right? Like Minnesota is like a fucking militarized state right now, and they're just shooting at protesters and shit, rubber bullets and tear gas and
slashing people's tires.
So yeah, I saw that one. They're like out there telling other officers to slash people's tires so they can't leave, so they can be arrested. Like, yeah, we have to build the movement and the change of the culture in order to fight these things.
Absolutely. Is that the end of
I think
the
that's our
spoop?
word. Yeah.
Okay.
You
Well,
wanna start
yeah.
us out, Ian?
Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you for showing up after our hiatus, and we're glad to be back. We're gonna be feeling things out here at the beginning, but we're gonna get back into steamy, hot, rock hard shape here soon. We're gonna be pumped full of blood and ready to go.
Mm.
But yeah, thank you guys so thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Um, Now April 15th. It's now Thursday. It's past midnight. It is
Crazy.
here.
Crazy. It's
7,
already April.
right? Yeah.
Middle April.
We had a steady 7, which we appreciate. It was really cool for you guys to just come hang out with us. If you're new and you kind of like what you saw, go ahead and drop a follow. For those who have been here for a while and kind of like us, and you want to support us farther than a follow, you can go ahead and subscribe either for $4.99 regularly, or if you link your Amazon Prime to your Amazon, or your Amazon Prime to your Twitch, same thing. You can give us your free Twitch Prime subscription. It costs you no extra money at all, and it only helps know that you support us, and makes us look better in like the analytics of Twitch or whatever. It shows us that we're growing. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys, and uh, we'll be sure to tweet out when our next live show is going to be. We were pretty consistent before our break of every Wednesday and Sunday, 10:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But we shall see. Just make sure you keep up to date with our Twitter at Spoop Podcast or Instagram at Spoop Podcast, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all Spoop Podcast. You can go find us there. Michael, can you go ahead and put the link in the chat bars?
Sure
Saw quite a
can.
few new names too, so that's always
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Few new-
Shout out, you guys.
We have a
But
lot of
yeah,
content. Like if you're interested,
yeah.
or
You
like
can
don't know what we are exactly.
Yeah, you can go to our YouTube page, which is in that link that Michael just put, the Nightbot, the spoopodcast.contactin.bio. That has a link to all of our social medias. You can go to our YouTube and just kind of, click through all of our videos. We have everything timestamped if you're looking for specific articles or specific topics. We do a lot of international politics. Jacan does a lot of great pieces in South America. Carlos does a lot of great pieces in the environment and the economy. Um, I focus more really on like at-home issues, uh, social justice. Yeah. But yeah, we all do what we can.
We
Um,
diversify.
we diversify. We really appreciate you guys, and we're gonna play you out to Omega Nova's new song, a leak from his upcoming new project, supposedly dropping sometime this month. Uh, yeah, hopefully. He hasn't confirmed anything, but I'm really hoping for it drops on 420 because I want to get baked as shit listening to
It's
some brand new Omega Nova.
on a Tuesday. Damn it.
But yeah, Nova, shout out to you, man. You make incredible music, and we really fuck with you and what you're doing for the city, brother. But yeah, other than that, everybody have a great night, and we will see you guys next show. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give it another loop. A battle with my mind on the outer rims of consciousness. And I'm a writer, not a fighter, never flaunt the fist. And yet I conquered this aggressive state of mind. Sun rays are fine, living in a soul ahead of time. I'll never find that peace cause it's within me. If you didn't want them bridges burning, don't make them flimsy. It's simply a manifestation of native brothers, belated lovers, and anyone who prayed to mother earth. For what it's worth, I'm living on this cursed turf, and I find every time I rhyme it hurts worse. Wait, it hurts worse? You think release will make it better, but it's just a clear reminder of this cold and soulless weather forever. These lyrics I write, that's where I'm going. Rain overflowing with poems, so get to know them. And let your soul vibrate throughout the infinite, cause life is intimate, and one day we all finish. infinite.